On the issue of oil alone, its discovery, 1956, and then the resolution of late Zik, the president of Nigeria, and Tafawa Balewa's government, the insistence that they will not accept to be exporting crude oil, only to be importing refined products, was the beginning of Nigeria's problems, unknown to many Nigerians. That was the real genesis of the coup that removed them. All other excuses as contained in our history is a lie. My name is Al-Mustapha. I'm challenging any person, any historian, any institution, any person who believe that what they submitted as excuses for the coup as contained and been taught by generations and generations, including myself when we were younger, are lies. We have investigated and we have known. And to any son of a country who believe his leaders, his elders were killed yesterday as leaders for being patriotic to say that we must have a refinery. They began to build refinery. By 1965, refinery was ready, but excuses were given, they were removed. Many young men were given wrong literature, wrong informations, tiny peanuts. Our leaders were killed. Reasons were given. We documented them in history. We are damn wrong. And this is painful, and some of us are coming to the fore.
So the true story is they were killed because of the oil in Nigeria.
It's just the refinery in Port Harcourt. They are resolved to say, we are leaders and we must invest in Nigeria. That decision against exporting crude oil to be taken refinery, which today is called in the modern Nigeria, subsidy, is the only game. Nobody can overcome it. We are 18 presidential candidates. I want to know that person who knows this. I want to know that candidate or those candidates who have the solution into turning Nigeria into a new course in alignment with the new world order. These are very bigger issues, and that's why in the course of my discussions, I want to beg to say, where need be, give me more time because this will educate all of us. It's a challenge to all political parties, challenge to all political institutions, challenge to the government of the day, challenge to former presidents. And I want to see former leaders of Nigeria, including religious leaders, coming into a forum for us to tell ourselves the truth. After all, every other country you see on earth that succeeded, they sat back first and talked to themselves. It all started with the United Kingdom. On 12/15, they sat down and talked to themselves. Say, we are gazing at the world. Unless we become the world lion, traverse across the world using diplomacy and our military might, we might not be whom we think we were. 12/15. French did its own in 1714 or thereabout. And then later, United States, when there were 13 states, they did the same thing, opened their borders, and now dignify immigrants into America, and then allow everybody to come. They fought indigents, became who they became. It's sense. Japan, they did their own after the attack in Hiroshima, and they had two options, confrontation and revenge, or the solution of negotiation. They sat back, negotiated, became stronger, and began to fight. China, Mao Zedong, started his own also in the 40s. They realized that skill acquisition is the way out for a new world order. And that's why there are practical people from leadership to the last common man. And that attitude called unism has brought them to the fore. Today, they are the world's largest market. We were once the same. And today, the latest you can see are Singapore and Malaysia. They applied their own love of their country, adjustments to suit their country first, not someone else. Unless Nigeria come together, understand who we are, what we have, and then give a direction. And in the real sense, that is the real word called restructuring. People don't understand. They misinterpret restructuring. What is restructuring? A direction, conception of a doctrine that will build your country where everybody will participate, where social justice will be all-encompassing, where the law of the land is upon everybody. But today in Nigeria, there are two classes, those above the law and the poor below the law. These are some of the tiny little ingredients that brought us to the fore. And if we are to go into the history of oil dirty politics in Nigeria, there is international dirty oil politics. there is domestic dirty oil politics in Nigeria.
Which one is international dirty oil policy?
That is the role of the international oil companies being utilized by foreign forces. The unseen hand from some certain foreign countries who have invested in our oil wrongly, bringing in government into the power. If you don't do what they want, they kick you out. I can run through and give you a tiny little example of numerous changes you have had that has retarded Nigeria.
Give us.
First of all, let me start this way to tell you that when led Zik and Tafawa Balewa's decision came to the fore, that was a capital offense against the order given that time. Nigeria earned her independence. But in 1956, with the discovery of oil in Olu Ebri, in Port Harcourt, that was the beginning. In Bayelsa. So the first refinery was the consumption and acceptance of these leaders out of patriotism, out of love for the country. God has given us oil and we shall utilize it here. The world shall come to buy. And the point to serve and to improve and to develop are these leaders. They should be utilized. Immortalized, respected, and to know that that was our direction. But they were outlived, killed, maimed, turned into nobody for the love of Nigeria. Ignorantly, there are elites who accepted a literature to say that they were at fault and all reasons in history were given, many of which are contradictory. That aside, in 1960 and 1965, that was the first experience. So the refinery was there, not commissioned. The first coup came, they were kicked out. And later, the genesis and mismanagement deliberately gave birth to the Civil War. But to be able to do damage to the Civil War, or before the Civil War, then Ironsi came to power. But to be able to do damage control and to show that the unseen foreign hand were not the ones that killed the first leaders of our first generation. Now, they honored Zik by him accepting to form a government of national unity. It was a damage control arrangement. So many of our elders were not aware.
It was just to cover
that
what the foreign countries did to Nigeria.
Using oil companies. And I will tell you a lot more. So this country need to adjust to know who we are and where we are. Here, he accepted, he was given national honor. He was also short-lived, but the damage control was partially done. General Gawan came to power. General Gawan, out of the same zeal, the same patriotism, he went ahead straight and committed the first offense unknown to him and known to his government.
What was the offense?
He built 3 refineries, one in Port Harcourt, one in Warri, and one in Kaduna.
So was it? How?
He built it right away. That's the first assignment he did out of patriotism.
And it was against the instructions?
Against the first instructions. The same offense committed by Zik and Tafawa Balewa's government was the same offense General Gawan came to commit, unknown to our elders at that time. That is why today, in all OPEC countries, there is a research going on. That's why we joined the bandwagon to know where we went wrong, how our leaders went wrong, and how we can get ourselves adjusted. We took it upon ourselves to do so. These are things you can't find in textbooks. You have to fight for, you have to scavenge for, and you have to make arrangements with international bodies to do so. And this dirty games is still becoming extremely much more dangerous now. When I come to the end, you will understand what I mean. It's extremely dangerous against our democracy, peace and security in Nigeria, and against our survival into the new world antics, the new world dirty order in dirty politics. I continue. General Gawan built, that was his offense. Now General Gawan stayed and now said, and I quote in one of his speeches, and people can research for this. At the time he conceived an idea, he said, with the 3 refineries we have just come up with, we shall build 5 more to be able to make sure that there is adequate supply of oil and all the byproducts to the people, enough to themselves to do businesses and to live. A patriotic statement. That is foresight. But Gawan began to now receive blames indirectly. Literature being circulated. His government was being accused as being corrupt. It was patriotism. And here, the more you build, the more you invest in Nigeria, the more you are seen as enemy. And literature is sold to the same Nigerians you are serving, and they call you names. General Gawan later on was short-lived. So these 5 refineries that he planned could not come to fruition. General Gawan was removed. Flimsy excuses were given. Nigerians were used. Fellow brothers into the same military were used. The flimsy excuses and the game played in removing General Gawan, the day Nigerians get to know is something disturbing and dirty. And these same people are still elder statesmen in Nigeria today. We have known, I am the one speaking, my don't hide. If this country will go back to peace, will find its track, and now occupy her position as one of the, among the 10 richest from the knowledge we know. If Nigeria can attain that, I have done my work. And that's all I want. I'm not looking for any money.
But
I
Nigeria
want
to be among
the first 10 richest
countries in the world.
Nigeria is one of the best. This country is extremely rich. Our elders are told we are poor. They are playing on them, and we believe them because we have a culture of believing elders. That's why, other than the fact that you have knowledge in getting to know what is underneath, you are wasting your time. We are getting misled. We are being abused and being dragged as fools, as animals. There are white people who invest here. They see us as animals. We have gotten to know what you can never imagine. And it is this confidence and these researches that brought us to the fore. Now, General Gawan was removed. There was coup. Murtala came to power. One of the major mistakes of Murtala was his resolve to commission the 3 refineries. Gawan came with. They were not commissioned. His first offense, he didn't know. He was driven by patriotism. He said, I will get them commissioned for them to take off. Not only that, the remaining program of getting 5 additional refineries conceived from the vision by General Gawan will come to fruition. He has already nailed himself. Without knowing, 6 months after, General Murtala was killed in a coup. Reasons were given. Blames were apportioned to some people. Till today, if that coup, 1996, is to be revisited, Nigerians 1976, I'm sorry. 1976, Nigerians are in for a shocker. Because it's a lie. Numerous souls died. And there are no facts to show. But at that time, Daily Times, Gaskiya Tafi Kobo, New Nigeria, newspapers, NTA, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria were the only means for people to know. Whatever you hear, you accept. Literatures are prepared, news are sent, people believed it. The question is, the numerous unanswered questions are there. And those who did what they did, Murtala came, he wasn't part of the coup. But people ordinarily outside say, no, it was Murtala that removed General Gawan. He didn't know anything. He didn't know anything about the coup. Those who did it, did it. And it was one of the major social setbacks against Nigeria's growth that removed General Gawan. It was a cooked story. And with the aid of the same oil companies, the same foreign unseen hands. Now Gawan left. From 1976 to 1979, nobody touched oil. Routines were going on. No adjustments were done. No single refinery was commissioned.
But they were taking out oil.
Everything was being taken. And then I'll tell you this, and you can quote me. 1977. Soon when FASTAG was going on, that was when the beginning of a new mode of oil theft in Nigeria started.
So they used that to distract Nigerians.
You see, Murtala's coup brought shock to Nigeria. The international advisors from the oil sector advised that let there be a social destruction. The whole Africa will come to celebrate in Nigeria. They celebrated, and while that was going on, some certain international unseen hands, the forces that have been destroying Nigeria, now began to test from the honey. That is oil allocation, and oil thefts, all types of what do you call it? All types of this illegal type of domestic bunkering were introduced in Nigeria. So that was the beginning. So bunkering was going on. You see, all your rigs in the sea, there was a time. Anyway, I'll come to that, where I could have been a victim myself. So nobody will tell me, no, you had it or you read it. No, I'm telling you from what I saw when I was a lieutenant myself. So that aside, Murtala left. He couldn't get it done. 1979, President Shagari came to power. Shagari came to power. They now sat down together. And you see, this is one aspect of separating Nigeria. At that time, coincidentally, the leaders of the major political parties, NP and then, was chaired by late Adisa Akinloye of Ibadan. Yoruba Elders Council had led Pa Awolowo and then Adeniran Ogunsanya, chairman of NPP. These three sat down together to say, taking away differences from political issues, to say Shagari should be assisted. Shagari should be assisted to look for resources. But then they now talked to Shagari, and Shagari accepted to do one thing at the beginning. Shagari committed the offense and shot himself on the foot.
What was the offense?
He commissioned the 3 refineries. It was Shagari that did it. Offense number 1.
So our major problem in this country is caused by oil.
It's one of it. It's
one of it.
It's one of the major issues. I'm coming to talk to you to tell you that whosoever comes to Nigeria without the knowledge of where we were, where we are, and the plans against us to come, starting from this 2023, then definitely we are in for a bigger problems. This is a fundamental issue I'm talking about. Now, Shagari left
after commissioning the 3 refineries.
commissioning. Now, 1979 to 1983. That was Shagari. Okay, sorry. That was Shagari that Shagari began to have difficulties. Sorry, because I got one aspect out. Shagari's difficulties started in calling his government of corruption, squandermania, if you remember.
Yes.
How literature were being sent around, how they were now forced to be importing rice, let Umar Idiko and the rest. All these were now put as blames against the government of Shagari. But the offense they committed was the commissioning of the 3 refineries. Then the media were deliberately funded, many consciously and unconsciously, began to now attack and condemn the government. And then also alongside these 3 elders I talked about, led Adisa Akinloye, chairman MPN, led Pa Awolowo, and led Adeniran Ogunsanya, insist on advising Shagari on taking some economic measures to help the country. 1981, I think, or 1982, there was something called Justice Irikife Commission. That gave birth eventually to his removal. There was coup. One may ask, who did the coup? Whose initiation? How did it happen? General Buhari was in power. Soon after he came to power, General Buhari on arrival also committed the first offense. Refusal to devalue Naira. Refusal to devalue Naira, which was a prerequisite from the foreign unseen hands. Buhari was short-lived. 1985, he left.
Because as at that time, Naira and dollar were not mates.
Were not. Naira was stronger.
Stronger than dollar.
And Naira was being spent in all OPEC countries, including the unseen hands, all these countries. Naira was acceptable, and they were using it direct in their banks.
So continue, sir.
So the plan to retard Nigeria, alongside this build-up that I'm giving you, as at 1972, when they discovered it was not only oil, but there was also gas in abundance, then they said, whatever it will take, Nigeria must never grow. And at whatever level and whosoever is involved, they will keep Nigeria where it is and never ever to move forward. Lately, I learned after I spoke some 3 years ago in this way concerning the game of keeping Nigeria retarded. Some professors went into some researches and I learned they discovered quite a lot more. I didn't give insight, but we are holding on to data because we believe it is this information that will guide this country. Now, General Buhari left. Now, in 1985, 1993, General Babangida was in power. When he came to power, he met a lot of challenges. IMF, World Bank, and then these unseen hands came up with their own formulas to withstand the government of the day to do their biddings. General Babangida had a lot of problems. To be able to wiggle out, there was SAP, People protested. It began to affect the economy of this country. But at the end of the day, Babangida now began to do a lot more insight on projects like People's Bank, like so many welfare schemes, so many loans. And then at the end of the day, that couldn't work. He too had to leave in 1993. But at the end of the day, Nigeria had already been affected. The international dirty oil politics had gotten stronger. The number of types of bunkering in Nigeria had increased up to 7 as at 1993 that I knew of. There were 7. There are international people like the case that was brought by channels lately. I can see ignorance playing a role. The question is, that point where they saw a point that illegal oil was being taken some 5 kilometers into the sea, there are registered ships coming to take forward on behalf of some of the foreign unseen hands for themselves. So they are making billions. Nigeria is busy borrowing. People can't eat. And yet, we are one of the richest. And so the oil is nothing but a cost.
And those ships were unregistered ships.
Yes, unregistered. They don't come with number. They take, and there is an arrangement. From so-so period to so-so period, you see not. And it goes to the international waters. Numerous naval officers lost their jobs, lost their career out of love and protecting Nigeria's resources before. So when this particular one came to the fore, I will give you an instance, even though I will do it at the end of the day. You remember it was soon after that was discovered. Then there was a signal and an alert that there was plan to attack Nigeria and Boko Haram was coming to the center. So why did that information didn't follow regular reportage? Why the confidentiality? In every foreign affairs, there is a certain security body, as it is the practice around the whole world. Embassies should report to the foreign affairs. That security outfit should investigate in collaboration with the domestic. Now you went to radio, you went to television, you brought friction. You now brought scare against Nigeria and Nigeria's investors. You remember? Lately,
yes,
it was just simply because of that. And ignorantly, it was channels out of patriotism. Some of their reporters say, this is our country. There is pilferage. There's this. That is an excellent job. But the reporter that did that and the journalist that did that
was ignorant.
Ignorant because they do not know the higher, dirty dimension of the game. That's why some of us, when it was happening, we laughed. But some of the security chiefs in this country, some of us spoke to them.
It might interest you to know that some journalists in Nigeria are not patriotic.
No, some are, some are, some are not.
Some are not. Some do not even believe in this country.
I know.
Some are working against the progress of this country.
That I know.
Some
yes.
are in the payroll of some of the people destroying this country.
That is a fact.
And they will never report anything positive about Nigeria.
I will come to that.
Thank you. Continue.
I will come to that. Now, Babangida left. General Abacha came to power. When General Abacha came to power, numerous things happened. First of all, he was also confronted by IMF, World Bank, and some of these unseen hands on the same issue that led to the failure of General Buhari when he was military head of state, currency devaluation. General Abacha now fought to say, instead of that, we shall establish economic council that is strong and big enough, and we will comply based on practicality. Naira was tagged, everybody knew, to 82 in black market, 22 in official rate. That was the first time Abacha shot himself on the foot. The second, Abacha now didn't stop there. He said, there are opportunities open for us to create LNG for Nigeria and for Africa. A source, correct. A source for us to fall back to as a rich country that is blessed. Abacha shot himself, number 3. Second, Abacha had an option to allow all the refineries to die. So there will be importing oil. Abacha refused. It was in this process, I will tell you something here, that is my own experience. One of the GMDs ran to me in the night and said, and I quote, my life is in danger. The memo was submitted
GMD of NNPC.
GMD of one of, MD of one of the refineries. He came to me, he later became GMD. He talked to. He said I should save him. What? He said there are some certain forces from the Ministry of Petroleum and NNPC itself that have submitted memo to the president. He said everything in that memo, all the hundreds of millions of dollars are lies. How? He now come to tell me. He said, don't you see, go take the memos and take a look at them. We opened the office of the president late in the night. I brought out all these memos and we went through. We took dictionaries and get any type of dictionary in the world. These spare parts, they said, to be able to achieve turnaround maintenance. Look at this word. I saw a word I cannot pronounce. But the amount of money per unit, per hundreds of units required to be able to do turnaround maintenance was scary. He said, pronounce this name. We said, okay, let's look for it in dictionary. Anything. Okay, let's look at petrochemical dictionary. Began to resort to call people no meaning.
Fabricated words.
They fabricate what they do. If, for example, television, the word television is in dictionary. Before the word T, they will add some figures and some name and some letters. In between television, they will add some more. At the end, they will add some more. How do you pronounce it? That is the way it is. Now you see allocated to that. Say per unit, for example, $50,000 times 3,000. In the meantime, is nothing. It's just a game. So at the end of the day, you see, to be able to do turnaround maintenance, the colossal amount of money is too huge. And
it's even enough to build fresh refineries.
Even medium refineries at the end of the day. And then the moment you do turnaround maintenance, you will be settled with the word sabotage. Is no longer functioning. Brain box, brain this. At the end of the day. So presidents over presidents and presidents, they have not spoken. But I know numerous presidents of Nigeria have had these colossal problems. It was a game. Just for you not to produce. You have oil, you can't manage. It's stage managed. Nigerians are used as agents, and then they retarded Nigeria. In every inch, they were making money. These were type of games. This happened with me. Now, another thing was the issue of Vision 2010. After Abacha left, was halted. It couldn't go. PTF was halted. It couldn't go. The issue of plan for dredging were halted. These were to make Nigeria great. Abacha was now abused, called names, they terminated him. Up to now, they are abusing him. So, but to dig deep into the real tenure of the history of the government is today an offense. Many newspaper houses will not accept. Many journalists will not accept. They have already the old literature in their minds formed, and this is the way it was. Now, 1999 to 2007, Jonathan came to power. 1999, there was a government. But rather than allowing the turnaround maintenance, now democracy, this democracy we are talking about, rather than building more refineries, even if they are medium, something devilish was introduced. It is called subsidy. The same thing Tafawa Balewa rejected and Dik. The same thing Murtala rejected. The same thing Gawon rejected that gave birth to their exits now was reintroduced in a bigger manner, in the dirtiest manner. At this time, some new additional types of bunkering were introduced in Nigeria, which is the type Channel newspaper just discovered oil theft lately. It's an old thing. There are too many in thousands and thousands in your onshore, offshore locations where you have your riches. Nigerians are far away from knowing this. So that came to the fore. The subsidy continued till this moment. And then refineries were stopped from working. But importation was the order. Now this continued until President Jonathan came. President Jonathan came and Okonjo-Iweala took it upon herself, knowing the colossal of money being spent as Minister of Finance, out of patriotism, out of love of Nigeria, knowing the resources we have. She stood her ground. What happened to her? Her parents harassed, her mother kidnapped. She had to keep quiet. Subsidy had to continue. All the rallies we have had on subsidy, the elites involved are taking money to get it promoted. And nobody could stop it. The government of the day, President Buhari, in one of his promises, campaign promises to Nigerians, is what? Stop subsidy. He said so. And then the major question he asked in one of his campaigns is, who is subsidizing who? When we get there, we'll sort it out. He has been here 7 years plus. Subsidy is getting stronger. The question is whose investment is the subsidy? Who is killing the refineries? You are now discovering more oil in Northeast. What is to come?
More
There
damage.
are already investments going on another type first of bunkering. Another type, bunkering on land, away and far away from sea. We are going to see something unless we have a leadership that care for Nigeria, that will carry Nigerians along, that will get Nigerians educated, that will create a barrier from this monster and the managers of the monster at home and outside. We are in for a very big problems. And so the tiny little peanuts they are being given, many of our elders, many of those who are opportunistic, they found themselves in places whether as civil servants or as politicians, are the problems of this country, not the majority poor who don't even know what is going on. Another, this is as at today. Now the question I'm talking about, this is concerning oil only. Oil that we have and Northeast in Nigeria. Northeast, to start with, designed by God Almighty, is the richest part of Africa. Nobody, no part of Africa is as rich as Northeastern Nigeria. Anything on Eastern Nigeria is rich. Southeast, the amount of stones, the amount of oil and gas, coal and gold are enormous. People don't know. You see in Southeast, even this red sand you see, that in the ancient day, when people get married, they take the red sand and adorn their huts. It's gold.
Gold.
Yes. Chinese are taking it today in hundreds of thousands of containers. They are taking it to the sea. You don't have the machine to refine it. But for how long have they been doing that? And at any time you ask, they say, no, we are taking your son to prepare fertilizer for you. And then immigration, custom, and police every day. That's why custom, if they are to talk to at the departure point, in all our seaports, Port Harcourt, Calabar, Warri, Tinkan Island, Apapa Port, ask custom. All these things they are taking out. What excuses were they given? If these things are real, they are going making fertilizer for Nigeria's usage. How much are they paying you to take it out?
What stops us from producing our own fertilizer in Nigeria?
I'm coming to talk to you on even fertilizer and the game being played against us.